eyes tied. Saw my eyes something, yeah, you was in the vibe. Flying around 95, trying to beat the time. Style from the time, guys, to the spark fire. Okay, we slide till our eyes tied. Saw my eyes something, yeah, you was in the vibe. Flying around 95, trying to beat the time. Style from the time, guys, to the spark fire. Okay, we slide till our eyes tied. Saw my eyes something, yeah, you was in the vibe. Flying around 95, trying to beat the time. Style from the time, guys, to the spark fire.
In this crooked game of power politics here in America, the Negro, namely the race problem, integration, civil rights issue, are all nothing but tools used by the whites who call themselves liberals against another group of whites who call themselves conservatives, either to get into power or to retain power. Among whites here in America, the political teams are no longer divided into Democrats and Republicans. The whites who are now struggling for control of the American political throne are divided into liberal and conservative camps. The white liberals from both parties cross party lines to work together toward the same goal, and white conservatives from both parties do likewise. The white liberal differs from the white conservative only in one way. The liberal is more deceitful, more hypocritical than the conservative. Both want power, but the white liberal is the one who has perfected the art of posing as the Negro's friend and benefactor. And by winning the friendship and support of the Negro, the white liberal is able to use the Negro as a pawn or a weapon in this political football game that is constantly raging between the white liberals and the white conservatives. The American Negro is nothing but a political football, and the white liberals control this ball through tricks or tokenism, false promises of integration and civil rights. In this game of deceiving and using the American Negro, the white liberals have complete cooperation of the Negro civil rights leader, who sell our people out for a few crumbs of token recognition, token gains, token progress.
Yo, 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 it's your boy, Brother Royce, one time for your mind, oh. And you are tuned into the first episode of Light Workers Podcast.
I am the Culture Arts Ambassador, David Miller. This is episode 1, Voting 2020.
Yes. So, we just heard the clip from Malcolm X, conservatives, liberals, political football game. Powerful words by one of the ancestors. Black leaders. I heard conservatives and liberals and the crossing party lines over Republican and Democrat. For someone who may not know what all of these terms mean, explain what are these Republicans and Democrats and liberals and conservatives and all these terminologies.
All right, liberal, conservative, those are the meat of everything, being liberal or conservative, right? My thing is, I'm trying to figure out why nobody came to the black leadership and say, why nobody white said, hey, black people, do you guys have a candidate for presidency? They never did that before. That's kind of interesting. But anyway, back to the question. Democrats and Republicans represent conservatives and liberals. Most people pretty much know the country was founded on the Republicans and the republic for which it stands. Black people was a part of that party in the beginning because there was no other party. That may be the reason, but I later found that the Democratic Party came about in a strong effort in the Civil War to keep slavery. So the Civil Rights Movement brought the Democratic Party to the forefront for being our party some kind of way, and for some reason. I do know that they funded the civil rights, And listen, we just talking about Democrat and Republican right now.
Yeah, when I was in school and they used to bring the little voting sheets into school, they was like, all right, kids, if you don't know who to vote for, just bubble Democrats all the way down.
Right.
But you saying we wasn't always under Democrats.
No, we weren't always Democrats, and the Democratic Party isn't older than the Republican Party. So now we got Independent Party. Would have had the Black Panther Party to go along with the elephant and the donkey. But we're not going to get into race today. We're just going to get into voting. Because I'm going to be honest with you, I'm now older, and I played a part in voting since '08 with Obama, and I have found I'm leaning towards only voting for things that helps me personally.
Right.
And that's where your vote should lie.
Right.
This is something of my best interest, so I'm going to vote. And I'm going to let the cat out the bag too. I'm not with the new Democratic structure. I'm not with it. You know, the Bill Gates chip for all your governmental benefits, that's on the way. I ain't with that. I'm not with the gay she-males playing with boys in the men's restroom. I don't want the restroom.
Like a lot of people have a lot to say about that, but listen, I'm honest, I'm open. When you got the Democratic candidate and he's talking about his first goal as president is to push LGBTQ rights. Listen, I'm from Florida. In Oakland Park, LGBTQ have their own city. Their own city. A whole community. They got flags, they got everything. Just like the Jews have their own community, just like the Chinese have their own community, just like all these other bodies have their own community. I was watching VH1 and they're actually passing a law for transgender that they can legally change their gender on their license to whatever it feels they should be. Okay, some blacks are still voting for the fighting for the rights to vote. Okay, correct. So do I agree that the first move for the president would be to fight for more LGBTQ rights when black people are being killed in the streets? There's a big gap there. Number one. Number two, we have been removed from WHO, which is the World Health Organization, which works with the Bill Gates and Melinda Foundation, which is the ones funding the vaccines. And the Democratic candidate is saying his first act as president after pushing LGBTQ equality is to re-sign America back under WHO, which would bring us back under the Bill Gates and the Melinda Gates Foundation. And if you didn't know, Bill Gates and Melinda Gates' original plan was to lock us down till 2023. They wanted to lock us down in 2023, and they did not want to release us until they got their vaccine fully developed. It is only because we were pulled from the World Health Organization allies list that we were able to at least come out and protest being out in that little retrospect. But not that I'm necessarily in favor of Republicans either, because they are openly racist as hell. And yeah, the Republicans are usually known as conservatives and they're white Christians and everything.
From y'all.
Exactly, but these were the ones who was reading the Bible while they was whipping our asses in the slave fields. So Republican and Democrat, I've never seen a bird flying with one wing. It usually takes two wings for a bird to fly. And there was a lot of people saying they wanted to vote independent this year, but they came out with a new law that says there will be no independent vote this year. You either vote Republican or Democrat, or so.
It's a scheme and it's a ploy. And you know, I'm appalled because I'm at the point where I'd rather go with a racist than a pedophile. So, you know, it's just a hard thing in the 2020 where we're not getting all the information. If you only watching TV and you're getting what CBS, NBC, and Fox is giving you, you are being controlled by the media. And once again, Malcolm X said that the media is the largest weapon of mass destruction. So yeah, another thing I want to say about the parties. Both parties work together to build legislation. We have 3 branches of government. So don't just get caught up on presidential. What about judicial? You know what I'm saying? And what about Congress? So Congress,
voting and stuff.
Correct. Congress is the ones that pass the laws and send how the laws is written. So the president just signs what they talking about, not what he made up. And
me.
yeah, So as far as the black agenda, if no one is saying stuff that touch you, in the beginning 2020, Bloomberg came with Black USA. I didn't know if he was trying to say something slick or if he was for real or what.
Sound like some shade.
It did. But look, now we trying to figure out, well, who is the Black Party? Who does have an agenda for us? Because we do know that we have problems with law enforcement.
Yep.
We have problems with our health care. You know, these are things that we care about in our communities. And we also have a problem with redlining. So if you got a candidate that is very Jewish about his money and even not liking other people to be invested into that money, then I don't want to deal with him either, because we all want to see nice things and have nice things, and we should have the right to be openly a fair count to those things, as in our pursuit to happiness. They use the vote to get certain things done, but the candidates are under pressure from other organizations saying, we'll give you our what do you call it?
A lobbyist?
No, lobbyists is the ones that's fighting for certain issues. You know what I'm saying? We got lobbyists out there fighting for, oh my God, we have lobbyists fighting for children in elementary school, children, to specify their sexual orientation. Why are y'all concerned with a child making this conscious decision on what sexual orientation he wants to be?
Yeah.
These are things that trouble me, and I'm saying to myself, that's not what you should be focusing on in government,
right?
Making law. So I got my theory about these pedophiles, because if a kid says, "Oh, I want to be a girl," even though I'm a boy at an early age, he don't know what he's talking about. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But if you can pull him into the boys' bathroom as a
girl
and sex education by some kind of gay person, you know, it's just a lot going on that's socially wrong, not legislation and lawfully wrong. You know, we got to get our community back in order, and that's the powerful thing about campaign season.
Dated February the 5th, 1960, they pointed out that out of 11 million qualified Negro voters, only 2,700,000 actually take time to vote. This means that, roughly speaking, only 3 million out of the 11 million Negroes who are qualified to vote take an active part. And the remaining 8 million remain voluntarily inactive. And yet it is this small minority, the 3 million Negro voters, who help determine who will be the next president. If who will be the next president can be influenced by 3 million Negro voters, it is easy to see why the presidential candidates of both political parties put on such a false show with the Civil Rights Bill and promises of integration. They must impress the 3 million voting Negroes who are the actual integration seekers. And if so much fuss is made over these 3 million integration seekers, what would the presidential candidates have to do to appease the 8 million non-voting Negroes if they ever decided to become politically active? They hold the balance of power. Who are the 8 million non-voting Negroes? What do they want? And why don't they vote? The 3 million Negro voters are the so-called middle-class Negroes, or high-class Negroes, or uppity Negroes, who are referred to by the late Howard University sociology professor E. Franklin Frazier as the black bourgeoisie, who have been educated to think as patriotic individualists with no racial pride whatsoever, who believe in and look forward to the future integrated, intermarried society that is constantly being promised to them by the Negro politician. And therefore, this integration-minded 3 million minority remain an active part of the white-controlled political parties. But it must never be overlooked that these 3 million Negro integration seekers are only a small minority of the 11 million qualified Negro voters. The 8 million non-voting Negroes are the majority, the downtrodden black masses. They have refused to vote. They've refused to take a part in politics because they reject the Uncle Tom approach of the clergy politician leadership that has been handpicked for the so-called Negroes by the white man himself. This clergy politician leadership does not speak for the Negro majority. They don't speak for the black masses. They speak for the black bourgeoisie, the brainwashed, white-minded, middle-class minority, who, because they are ashamed of their race, because they are ashamed of being black and don't want to be identified with black, they are seeking to lose this black identity by mixing and mingling and intermarrying and integrating with the white society. The race problem cannot be solved by listening to the white-minded, brainwashed minority.
Presidential candidates mean a lot of stuff to the national level, but honestly, we was broke when we had the black president, broke when we had the white president.
Ain't stuff ever changed in the hood. I mean,
broke under the Democrats.
It's been the same. So I ain't seen the difference.
So now what we tuning in and homing in on.
What's the most important thing?
Yeah, so now what's important to me personally that I want you guys to realize is local voting. We talking about judges, we talking about attorneys, we talking about commissioners and mayors. And then obviously we need a state governor, but our city, mayor, commissioner, judges, all this, and our sheriffs, we need to be proactive about who we vote for locally. I know you like watching TV and criticizing presidents and seeing all these people talk on a national level. Yeah, that's the big boy level, but what's gonna happen in your area? Something very simple as one-way roads. Let's make all our roads one way. If you make a U-turn, we can pull you over. That can be something, you know what I'm saying? That could be an issue. So we need to make sure we're voting for people locally that knows the community and knows our issues. That's what I want to see happen.
I remember it's a lot of people, as we come out of the second half of this Malcolm X clip. I remember when Miami first got started, people don't know this, but Miami was built by Haitians and Bahamians. That's why it's built the way it is. A lot of Caribbeans come to Miami and they say, wow, you know, this place looks familiar to home, because it was built by a lot of Caribbean immigrants. And there was actually a vote taken, because initially Miami, half of the white population wanted Miami to be a residential area like Fort Lauderdale, like Broward. And the other half wanted Miami to be for tourism. So here's what they did. They actually gave the Caribbean population the right to vote in the election for whether Miami would be tourism or residential. Now, the black population had the contracts to build the tourist locations of Miami. So they voted and overwhelmingly swung the vote in favor of building tourism Miami. Now, right after that, they took the black vote back from the Caribbeans. They took the power to vote back. They revoked the rights of voting back from these black Caribbeans after tourism Miami had been built. Okay, so what's the problem? It should be fine. They took all the money that they made building Miami and they moved into a city called Overtown. And they called it Overtown because when the blacks were done building on the segregated beaches of Miami, they had to be back Overtown before the Ku Klux Klan killed them. Overtown was the safe place for the working blacks to be. Okay, and Overtown actually became one of the first black Wall Streets. Okay, it was completely self-sufficient, black-owned churches, black-owned movie theaters. It was a black-owned economic system. Now, another vote came. The vote to extend I-95. I-95 was supposed to be built on a part of town that was for spare railroad tracks. But the whites in that part of town said, we don't want a highway being built through this area because maybe 20 years from now we might want to build a railroad here. So the vote was for either I-95 to be built through this unincorporated area that was just excess area for railroads, or whether it would be built through Overtown. Well, guess what happened? The rights of the Caribbeans whose votes was used to vote for whether Miami would be residential or tourism had been revoked. And now these blacks were not even able to vote in an election that involved their own neighborhood, And the vote was overwhelmingly passed to build I-95 through Overtown. So all the people of Overtown were scattered out of Overtown, paid measly amounts of money to give up their property, forced off their property, which they bought by law of eminent domain.
Eminent domain is powerful.
And now these millionaires who built Miami, the children and grandchildren of these millionaires now live in Liberty City, also known as the Pork and Bean Projects, which is called the Pork and Bean Projects because the people there live so poor that they say they can only afford pork and beans to eat. So this is one reason why a lot of people, as Malcolm X so eloquently put, don't really believe in a voting process at all. And I understand that local elections are important. I do believe that we all need to participate in these local elections because I think it's these local elections that's going to decide whether your school has gender neutral bathrooms. Okay, boys and girls using the same bathrooms, grown men who identify as women using the same bathroom as your little girls. Okay, I believe all of these things are handled on the local elections. These are your governors that police these things, okay? But as far as the national platform, if a national platform is just that, a national platform, then I think that this national platform should be used as a platform for boycott. The next step after protest is boycott.
Boycott, definitely.
And I like the idea of Ice Cube, P. Diddy, and Charlemagne the God. They said we should hold the black vote until either one of these candidates can come up with a black agenda that we can agree on. Because right now, none of these candidates are talking about a black agenda. Donald Trump just came out and said, hey, rich people, you no longer have to worry about building low-income houses in your neighborhood. I'm removing the Obama Act that said low-income houses have to be built next to your high-price places. That's racist. But you got Joe Biden, and you got his running mates and other Democratic running mates who are talking about, I want to put us back under Bill Gates and I want to push more LGBTQ agendas. Okay, so neither one of them are talking about anything that really benefits the black community. Yet, as Malcolm X put, the black community is the swing vote. So we're not going for this black pandering. I don't care what Black is King movie came out. I don't care who's wearing kente cloths and bowing down. I don't care about black pandering. Okay? And we as black people should not settle for just being acknowledged. We need a black agenda. Or the next step after protest, if the protests are not satisfied, is the boycott. So I ask you this. What do you feel is one of the points that we need for a black agenda for voting 2020?
So I do like where we're going with this because we need a black agenda, of course, and it needs to be deeper than being able to smoke a joint. We do have
black pandering.
Yeah. And I also want to say one last thing. We are in 2020 where we are fusing the Malcolm X and Martin Luther King energies. The boycott is necessary. That's what we learned out of that civil rights MLK thing. I think one thing that we need to have on the national level, we need to come up with a smarter and a new judicial system, judges. Do we have black Supreme Court judges? Because there's a whole lot of said to be black felons. When do we have a black judge? And then the judicial system falls down into law enforcement. Now, what are you officers of law? What are you guys gonna do for us?
Yes, one agenda needs to be some kind of police reform.
Reform, yeah, police. They have to be trained in a new way, because you can't just go out there and automatically stereotypically say, oh, because he is Mexican, he may be drunk and I can pull him over.
Right,
Because he is
right.
black, he's as Hillary Clinton say, a super predator. No, we're not after your butt like that.
Right,
You
right,
know,
right.
We all, black men is usually blessed and we get our fair share.
There's
But
too many of us dying, too many police
Facts.
killing us and then blowing us away and getting off with it.
yeah, so our judicial system on that national level, this is the world right here. We need to actually stir it like this and say, look, we exist too.
Right.
Judicial system is definitely something we have to look into on this national level. What
Right.
you think need to be done on national?
I mean, if we're talking about another point, I mean, we definitely need to deal with this sex trafficking.
Oh.
We have 75,000 women and girls missing, unaccounted for. Okay? Sex trafficking. We just found out that Wayfair, a website, is selling sex trafficking victims online. Okay? And I'm in the store and I'm looking up at the TV and these Wayfair commercials are still on the TV. The minute somebody came up with, hey, we have proof that Wayfair is selling children on their website, those commercials should have been pulled.
Off top.
Those commercials should have been taken down off top. But the commercials for Wayfair are still on the TV to this day. So there is no way you are pandering for the black vote. And you are not even taking into account that we have 75,000 of our women and children missing, yet you are trying to get us to vote in your electoral system? Police reform, and we need to deal with the sex trafficking. You need to give us some kind of agenda or some kind of plan of attack as to how we're going to protect our women and our children in this country. That's the point I would add.
Oh yeah, nationally, we need that.
Okay? And look, as far as the third point, I'll say this. We'll leave it up to us as a black community to come up with another point for a black agenda that needs to be addressed. Okay?
Yes.
I know we're used to people representing us, but we're able to represent ourselves. That's where we have historically went wrong. We're looking for people to represent us, and we're not looking to represent anybody. We can speak for you. We can speak on your behalf, but we speak with you. So let us together come up with more points that need to be addressed on a black agenda. Right?
A black agenda, man.
So how would you finish up? How would you bring us out? We can cut this part, we can cut through this part, but how would you summarize this episode?
Man, this episode is most definitely keep your eyes open and watch who these candidates are, man.
Yeah, do your research, man.
Because they look good. All of them look good. That's their job to do.
That's their job.
But when we get into some of these guys' backgrounds, for example, look how quick we demonized and pushed aside Andrew Gillum. We need to do everybody like that if that's how y'all gonna do it.
Facts.
And represent. Your vote matters. This is
Right.
2020,
Right.
and this episode is voting in 2020. And never forget the hip hop, crowd
community,
I'm sorry, hip hop community showed and proved that the black vote means something.
Facts. That's why I agree.
Everybody who's campaigning is aiming for the black vote.
Yep.
And then they're trying to get the black vote to also coexist with the gay vote. But their main thing is looking at the black vote. So if y'all want our vote, y'all need us, right?
Yep.
So we need y'all to do something.
Let's follow that P. Diddy model, that Ice Cube model, that Charlemagne model, and listen, let's boycott the black vote on a national level until they give us a black agenda that suits the community. And two things that need to be addressed off top: police reform, sex trafficking, and hey, let's get the ball rolling with that. Vote in 2020.
We are the light workers.